Thank you, Laura. And good morning, everyone. And happy Mother's Day. Yeah. I was just thinking about my mother this morning and I want to share a little bit around that, around the power of the mother this morning, the power of the sacred feminine. And so good to see all of you. And why don't we begin by opening up to gallery view for a moment to just take each other in and be present to one another. Welcome, welcome, everyone. Oh, it's so good to see you. And for those of you who are new to Dharma Sunday, to Natural Dharma, a special welcome to you also. And thank you for coming and being a part of the community. So in our Dharma Sunday, we start with practice. And practicing together is this, beautiful way to discover that there's a power in being together when we practice and together with other practitioners. And although I recognize so many of you know, and I know many of you, most of you actually, gazing at the screen, I know you don't all know each other, right? So you're not, some of you are new to one another. And so if you're new to one another, just to know that you are among friends here. And I say that just because I know so many of you, and I know the power of your practice and the history of some of your practice. And there's something about when you meditate in a community of people or with a community of people who have practiced for many, many years, like on the screen, there's probably, more than 100 years of practice on the screen, that you can let go a little of your own efforting and trust the field of practitioners to kind of all of us together to hold the flow of the sit and to hold the flow of turning the gaze from out here to in here. And it's a rare thing to be in a community of people who are willing to turn their gaze or interested even in turning their gaze from out here to in here. So there's something powerful about sitting together. Very different, from sitting alone. And sitting alone, I think there's a lot more sense of effort and a lot more risk of distraction because there's no witnesses but yourself. And you have to be pretty committed to yourself to be able to sit alone. So welcome. So good to see you. And let's just go ahead and move into the space of practice. And when we practice, we often begin with some chanting, some orienting. We might say orienting for the chanting towards towards community, towards connection. That's refuge, the practice of refuge, and also towards opening the heart. That's the practice of bodhicitta. So, all Buddhist practices begin with those two things: refuge and bodhicitta. And the rest there could be more there. There could be, but that's really enough in a way to set the stage, set the tone refuge is really just a change of orientation to realize that we are not alone, that we are held. That's what refuge is about, to realize you can feel very alone. We all can feel alone at times in our life, in our practice, but in the big picture, we have support. And however you want to understand that support, refuge is active. Like, you can bring in your support. So we're going to do like a formal chant in Tibetan and with the Tibetan translation, because it's a beautiful connection to lineage and the tradition. But what we're really doing is calling on support. We're calling on our guides, teachers, kind ones, benefactors, including the ones in this life that we think of as ordinary, are the ones who have walked the path with us, who've loved us through difficult times. So refuge. And then we also do a little chanting around bodhicitta. Bodhicitta means the heart that longs to awaken, the heart that longs to awaken. So we awaken, we stimulate the heart that longs to awaken. We remember that I am here to awaken. I am here to uplift in community. And it's bodhicitta. So please feel free to join me in the chanting, or you can also just kind of hum along. And we'll also do, after the bodhicitta, we'll do the Tara mantra. We'll do the Tara mantra. Tara is the embodiment of fierce love. She is the embodiment of fierce love. Tara is the female Buddha of Asia, and she is the her name actually means the swift one, the one who is swift acting for the benefit of others. And you might wonder, wait a minute, this is Buddhism. There's not supposed to be deities and things like that, right? Some of you know better, but there are archetypes. We could say she's an archetype. She's an archetype of the Great Mother. And it's appropriate for Mother's Day. I want to bring her in. She is also called in many prayers and rituals, she's called the mother of all Buddhas. The mother of all Buddhas. And she symbolizes fierce compassion, and she also symbolizes the wisdom of shunyata. Shunyata means the truth beyond the veil of appearances. She symbolizes that, and that, or a realization of that, is what gives rise to the Buddha in you. So this idea of she's the mother of all Buddhas doesn't mean that she literally births all Buddhas, but spacious awareness or a realization of the way things are births all Buddhas. And that's what she represents. That makes it. So Tara, we'll do some chanting to Tara. And I wonder, so Laura, when we do the chant, maybe you could bring up the mantra on the screen so people can chant the mantra. But then after a little while, like a couple of minutes, you could bring up the image of Tara, the two images, maybe one for a while and then the other for a while. So people can also get a sense of what it is that we're connecting to, this Mother Tara. We'll start with the refuge prayer. Laura, you could bring that one up. So I think we'll change to speaker view as that one comes up. Sanhe Chetan Sochi Chonam La Jang Chu Padu Dani Chasu Chi Dagi Jin So Chi Ki So Nam Jin Rola Pinche San She Du Pa Ro Sanjay Chudan Sochi Chonam La Chang Chu Padu Dani Chasu Daki Chin So Chi Pe So Nam Chin Kola Pen Che San Che Drupa. In Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, we go for refuge until enlightened by the power of generosity and the other perfections. May we realize Buddhahood for the benefit of all. Laura, if you could bring up the four immeasurables, thank you. May all beings possess happiness and the inner causes of happiness. May all beings be free from sorrow and the inner causes of sorrow. May all beings remain undivided from the sacred joy, which is free from sorrow. May all beings come to rest in the great equanimity beyond attachment or aversion to friends, enemies, or strangers. Invoking, inviting the goddess Tara to be present. She is green in color, like the greenery on a tree. And she's surrounded by vines and flowers, a living natural world. And her right foot is bent and kind of stepping down from her seat, and the left is drawn up, and that right foot symbolizing her active nature, movement into the world for the benefit of others. And the left leg drawn up is symbolizing her peace, her contemplative side. Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re So Ham 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 Tare Tu Tare Tu Re So Om Tare Tu Tare Tu Re So Ham 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 Tare Tu Tare Tu Re tane tu, tane tu re, so ham tane tu, tane tu re. So ham tare tu re. So ham tare tu re. So I'm just holding Tara in your mind's eye after we've invoked her presence. And Tara, you can see her as a body of light, radiant with this green glow, this green radiance. Her body, not solid, but like a rainbow appearing in space. Vivid. And that radiance coming from Tara's body into yours, and her eyes are gazing at you like a mother gazing at her only child with great love and affection. Seeing through you and down to your most authentic being. Mm. And then Tara's body dissolves into a pure, radiant light that dissolves into you. Mm. You become inseparable from Tara's essence. her wisdom, awakening your wisdom. Her heart, opening your heart. If you aren't already in a place that's comfortable for sitting, we're going to sit for a few, maybe 20 minutes, 25 minutes. So you get yourself in a comfortable place for sitting for a little while. Your seat, your back supported. And you can turn your gaze a bit away from the screen. If that's good for you. Just coming down from the thinking mind and into your feeling body. Noticing how down at the base of your body you are already grounded. Noticing as you sit with awareness in the body, your mind is still moving and active and shifting. Just seeing if you can let that mind just be as it is. If there's temptation to want to corral it, want to make it behave, just let it be as it is, like the wind. And bring attention back to the body. Moving up from the base of the body to the gentle breath, your natural breath. Noticing your cool, fresh inhale, the warm, soft out breath, and the space between. And if your eyes are closed, and on an out breath, just letting them open a little bit, keeping the gaze soft and unfocused. Or if you're an experienced practitioner with this open eye practice, you can let the gaze raise into a panoramic open gaze. Resting with ears open, senses open, breath open, eyes open, heart open, mind open,
So let's take a stretch break and we will be back on the hour. So you have a 10-minute break. You take a little stretch break or use the facility, get a cup of tea. We'll see you back here in 10.
Welcome back. On Mother's Day, I want to take a moment to remember our mothers and to reflect on my own mother a little bit, and invite you to reflect on yours as well. Um, my mother, my mother was a scientist, actually. She was a cell biologist, and I have an early memory of being sick when I was about I was 7 years old. I came down with scarlet fever, which is a really um, gnarly infection. It used to cause children to go blind and deaf. The fevers were so high from scarlet fever that before there was treatment for it, children would die from it, and they would also go blind and deaf. If you ever read Little House on the Prairie, Mary in Little House on the Prairie went blind and deaf. It's a true story, blind and deaf back in the 1800s. They were going across the country in a wagon, and they ended up living in a dugout. A very amazing story, really. But the one of the tragedies of that story is that she comes down with scarlet fever, and there's nothing they can do about the fever, and she gets really impaired by that for the rest of her life. But anyway, I came down with scarlet fever, but of course it was 1960 something, 72, I think. Yeah, 1972. So of course I took penicillin and it was okay, but I was pretty sick, and there was a lot of, fever and discomfort and um, yeah, and aches and pains. And I remember my mother came to sit by me every night before I go to sleep, and she would do this meditation practice with me. She'd do this guided meditation where she would have me imagine the diseased, the virus or the bacteria. I don't know, scarlet fever. Anyway, she'd have me envision the invading the disease invading my cells, and then imagine these white blood cells that would come along. And she'd do this as a guided meditation. The white blood cells would come along and surround the infection and create and release chemicals that would get into the diseased cells and cure them, or heal them. So she did this sort of scientific guided meditation where she'd have me envision the white blood cells surrounding um, the diseased cells and curing them and healing them, as a very slow, at night. It would be at night when I was lying in bed, a very slow guided meditation. Um, and it really stuck with me. It really stuck with me, like, for the rest of my life. It was really the first time. I've been invited into my own body to do work in my own body, contemplative work. Um, so my mother was this hybrid of a scientist and a spiritual practitioner. And one of the gifts that I received from her was this respect for that it's possible to coexist with a respect for the power of observation, of you could say like the giving respect to empirical experience, and at the same time honoring the possibility that what we see isn't all that is true, that there can be a lot happening behind the veil of what's appearing that we may not fully understand. That was one of the great gifts that my mother gave me. Um, so anyway, invite you to also reflect on your mother. And interestingly, in the Buddhist tradition, our relationship with our mother is a very primary one, very important one. And in the meditations on generating loving kindness and compassion, you might think that we would begin a meditation training in compassion and loving kindness, that we might begin with, say, someone who was suffering, who we would feel compassion for. But that's not where we begin in the Buddhist tradition. In your training, you begin with your mother, interestingly enough. Also from a psychological point of view, from a psychotherapeutic point of view, you begin with recollecting your mother in the trainings in compassion and loving kindness and training the heart. And why do you begin with your mother? Because your mother gave you your body. She held your body in her womb for 9 months, and then she birthed you. And of course, in some cases, your birth mother may not have been the mother that raised you, right? If you're adopted, for example. But your mother gave you the basis with which you have to practice on the path and experience this entire world. And so your mother, is this kind of primary connection to the planet, the earth, and also to your practice of the Dharma. And I understand, as you do, that everyone doesn't have the same kind of relationship with their mother. Some of us might describe a relationship with our mother as primarily positive, but some may describe, you may have had a very difficult relationship with your mother. But whether your relationship with your mother was easy or difficult, from a Buddhist perspective of training, you need to work through that relationship, whether it was negative or positive. That your primary relationship with your mother and working with it, working through it, is part of the path, actually, part of the path, because it's such a primary relationship to your own life on the planet. And so, how do you work through it? How do you work through it? So, in the trainings on loving kindness and compassion, you begin by recollecting what it is. What is it that you can be grateful for, that you received from your mother? So you start with that in the trainings on loving kindness and compassion. And of course, body is one. But what else did you receive from your mother? What kind of transmissions did you receive from your mother that you were grateful for? And so in some of the traditional Buddhist texts that talk about loving kindness and compassion, they list some things that you can start to think about, like my mother changed my diapers. My mother wiped my butt when I couldn't do it myself. My mother fed me from her breast. My mother made sure that I had food when I was an infant. My mother helped me walk. She helped me take my first steps, and she encouraged me to walk. That she fed me from her own plate. She chewed my food and put it into, and that's what Tibetans do. By the way, Tibetan mothers chew food for their baby because they don't have blenders, right? So they chew it up and then they put it in the mouth of their baby, right? So, but in our case, my mother put food in a blender. So, and to really dwell on each of those acts of care that were repeated again and again and again when we were an infant. This is even before we develop a friendship or psychological relationship, positive or negative, with our mother, that there were these acts of care. And so how we begin is with this reflecting on those acts of care and letting those penetrate onto our consciousness. Oh, yeah, that happened. Those acts were there. And then, of course, as we get older, our relationship with our mother can become complicated. And in my own case, I had a good relationship with my mother. I had a little more of a complicated relationship with my father, a little bit less easeful. Um, but even in that primary relationship, relationship with the father, but could be with the mother as well, there are ways that that relationship taught you how not to be, not just how to be, but also how not to be. So part of our growth in this human life um, can be supported, stimulated by reflecting on the way our early life, there were transmissions that we received from our early primary relationships with our parents, real mother, adopted mother, or body mother, physical mother, or an adopted parents, if we were adopted, father, primary figure, that shape us. And we have some control. We don't have full control. We couldn't choose our parents, maybe. We came in how we came in because of our karma. But we can choose what we did and what we do with the mother or father experiences that we were given. That part we can choose. And part of the choice we can make is to remember the parts that shaped us in very positive ways, and the ways that were difficult but shaped us in a way that we could begin to see, appreciate that even the negative experiences we can now that we're older, figure out how to integrate those in a way that allows us to grow and further develop, further um, become a great human being, the best human being that you can be. So thinking about, let's take a minute now just to think about your mother. Let's, especially given it's Mother's Day, to think about her, even if it's hard to think about her. Those of us that have lost our mothers, I lost my mother when I was 21, very close to her, very close. It was a monumental loss in that time in my life. Even if you lost your mother in a way that, a way that was sudden or devastating, it's okay to bring her back. So I'm just bringing my mother back, invoking your mother back, and taking a minute just to recall some things that she did for you that helped you live and thrive. Experiencing some gratitude for her, and also considering that our mother, your mother also went through some really difficult times in her life, and she had to get through that in order to continue to support you. And especially as we get older, I think we start to see more how our mothers struggled, how she tried, how she suffered. And so just taking a moment to remember that, to think about one of those times when she was suffering, and allowing yourself to open your heart to her now, even if you couldn't then. Doing some compassion practice with her now, just opening the heart to her and feeling compassion. Oh, mother. Yeah. Yeah. And so in the trainings, in Buddhist training on loving kindness and compassion, we do that kind of work with the mother, with our own mother, and invoke her again and again. In my own training, that was true. In the monastic training, you invoke your mother again and again. And one of the reasons we do this is that in the Buddhist understanding, she isn't the only mother you've had. You've had all sentient beings as your mother over the course of your endless lifetimes. And this is what we've forgotten, that every being has been our mother. And even the ones that we consider most difficult, in some past life, at some time in the cosmic scale of reincarnation, every being has been our mother. Isn't that an amazing thought? Every being has been our mother. Every insect, every animal we encounter, every bird song that we hear, this being too has been my mother. And the intention of that reflection is to open our heart to all beings, so that they are not somehow separate from us or distant from us, that we've been in an intimate relationship with each of them, and we owe our life to each of them. It's a way of opening our heart to all beings and understanding that their life is, my life, very connected. Mm. And so for myself, that reflection has been so powerful. The work with the mother in the Dharma, because it's allowed me to bring my mother back into my life. Right, I lost her very early. I lost her at 21, but she's still very present for me, more present for me now than she was, say, when I was 22, 23, when I felt this profound sense of her absence, of her loss, that I couldn't pick up the phone and call her. Now I feel like I can pick up the phone and call her, but not in the way that I used to. But you can re-invoke her mother if you've lost your mother, and have her become a part of your life. Bring her into meditation. Feel gratitude for her presence in your life, even if the relationship was complicated. Yeah. So mothers are powerful. Mothers are powerful. And of course, there are ways in which we re-invoke the archetypical mother in our own life to heal some of the ruptures that we've had with our own mother, right, in our historical life. And so some of the ways that we might do that is like invoking Tara. You know, in some ways, Tara is the perfect loving mother. She is wise and compassionate. She is the archetype of fierce compassion. Not just soft compassion, but also fierce compassion. Many of the expressions of the goddess Tara are in a wrathful form. She's benefiting beings, but through her strength and her power and her rage too. You know, this is raging Buddhas in the Tibetan tradition. Some forms of Tara are wrathful. So there are ways that we can kind of reparent ourselves by relying on a archetype like Tara, powerful female archetype. And if you are, if you identify with the male gender or you're transgender, also still Tara can be your archetype. We all have in the both the feminine wisdom and also the masculine side of ourselves. Everyone, I think, has that within them, both all the continuum between. So um, we can really enjoy the fullness of being human by connecting to those powerful archetypes of all the genders, and just to connect to that. Maybe we need a little bit to strengthen more the feminine side of ourselves, or the masculine side of ourselves, the more masculine side. And so we can do that with using these archetypes, or beginning to invoke these archetypes like Tara. So a little bit about Tara today. I want to say a few more words about Tara, whose image we saw there in the beginning of our teaching and before we meditated. And as we meditated, there are a number of forms of Tara. How she appears is different in different countries. But in the Tibetan tradition, she appears with this one leg drawn up, with the left leg drawn up and the right leg stepping down. And what that symbolizes is that she has a contemplative side, and she also has this active side that's moving out into the world to do and to be of benefit. The contemplative side is inward facing, and the active side is outward facing. And so she has these two sides, we might say, of herself. And that part of what she's representing is a good balance between the active and the contemplative. And for me, that's been very helpful to have her around in my spiritual life, because she reminds me that when I get too out there, too external, and I start forgetting to pause and relax and hold the energy in, when I'm in that sort of imbalanced state, I notice it, and I can remember just her form, and oh yeah, right, it's okay to step back and to take a breath and to be present to what's going on in here, and then to move again into the world. Or sometimes in some parts of my life, some periods of my life, I became very internal, too cloistered, and neglected that outward facing part of the self, neglected the in the world part. So she reminds me, when I'm in that state, to kind of rebalance, right? She's a symbol, she's an archetype, she's a powerful presentation of that balance. And also that form of Tara, this Tibetan form of Tara, her right hand is extended out in this symbol of giving, and the left is holding the lotus um, of wisdom. So that right hand is symbolizing her commitment to compassion, to active compassion in the world, to giving, to the open heart. And the left is symbolizing her commitment to wisdom, because the lotus is a representation of wisdom. So her commitment to acting with compassion, but also acting with wisdom. And we too can get, those two sides of us need some balance. The compassion side can be all soft and yielding and giving, and we forget the strong back that we need to have in order to sustain a soft front, right? The strong back of equanimity, of wisdom, of awareness, that helps balance that soft front, right? That more loving heart. So the balancing of the loving heart with the strong, equanimous part of ourselves that sees that bigger picture, the wisdom picture. So she also represents that balance of the wisdom and the compassion. So the action and the contemplative side, and also the wisdom and the compassion. So Tara is a powerful symbol in that way for how we can be in the world. Yeah. So wanted to share her with all of you this morning, and to be in her space with all of you this morning on this Mother's Day. She's such a powerful figure of this feminine wisdom. Um, and I think a few other remarks to make, and then I'll just open it up for some reflection from all of you. Curious to hear what you think, and any stories about your own mother. Would be lovely to bring some of the mothers into the room. Yeah, the importance of the feminine wisdom, the goddess energy, the mother energy at this time in history, because we need some of that powerful feminine energy right now in the world. So I just feel a strong commitment, a strong sense that even the Dharma, the spiritual life that we live, needs this infusion of the feminine wisdom. We have lived for so long as a culture with a patriarchal structure. And in some ways, that patriarchal structure may well be somewhat encoded in our DNA. And it will take a strong conscious movement. It has taken a strong conscious movement to shift those structures into a different kind of wisdom that is more circular, more about the interdependence, more about the heart, and more about making decisions in a circular way, not so top down oriented, and more of that interdependence oriented. Women in our species have long been the caregivers, and the keepers of the hearth, right? And that focus on the caregiving and the keeping of the hearth and the creating of the social space is something that we really need to attend to at this particular time in history, when there's so many upheavals out there that have to do with the structure, how we're structured as a community, as a society. So homage to the feminine wisdom for this time. And I think I'd just like to open it up to all of you to hear a little bit from you what these reflections are stimulating, and any sharing of something, a story about your mother, maybe something that she transmitted to you, a dharma, so to speak, a transmission of wisdom that came from her. And you can feel free to raise your hand using the raise hand function. We're going to now take some reflections from all of you for maybe share for 10 minutes or so together.
Hi, Michael. Do you want to unmute?
Hi, everyone. It's really good to be here with you all. And I was mostly raised by my Aunt Ruthie, and I've always discounted the role of my biological mother. But in today's session, I had a remembrance of how she planted the seed for being of service to others. And one story I would love to share is during the Vietnam War, my mother, my biological mother, joined a secret group, mostly of Unitarians, that created a underground railroad in New England to take pacifists and draft dodgers into Canada. And that really warms my heart when I think of that story. So thank you, Lama Willa, for getting me to open my heart to her.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah. She sounds like she was a powerful woman, and that she was mother to maybe more than you. She had some part of herself that wanted to really help. Beautiful. Oh. Oh. Some mother stories, vignettes, difficult relationships with mother, and how did you work with it in your life? Allison.
Hi, good morning from California. This is my first time here. Thank you for sharing and welcoming all of us. The thing that I wanted to share about my mother is it is a difficult relationship. However, um, I there was a point in my life when I did some intensive Tara practice, and it sort of was some sort of alchemy that
Mm.
shifted something in my heart. But the thing that I wanted to share about my mother is that she is a force of nature, and she has no interest in spiritual practices, or as far as I can tell, she's not interested in it. But she's such a hard worker, and when she puts her mind to something, it happens. And my husband and I often say, if she were a Dharma practitioner, she'd be enlightened by now. So I think the thing, the gift, one of the gifts that she's given me is that discipline, or that sense of drive that I can invoke. Her name is Joanne, and we will say, WWJD, what would Joanne do when we really need to try to get something done? So thank you for
Oh.
encouraging us to connect with positive aspects, even when or if the dynamic is difficult.
Thank you, Allison, for that. And yeah, just what's thank you for bringing Joanne into the room and her powerful to do, go to get done attitude. That's really amazing. She's perseverant. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, they say these days that the psychologists who are writing these doing these studies on happiness, that one of the most important dimensions that distinguishes um, sort of the people that they call the most resilient people from people that are less resilient is that they're able to take the conditions of their life and see the positive in those. It isn't about the conditions, it's about what do you do with the conditions. And the most resilient people are those that can actually take the conditions, like the conditions of our parenting situation, and see what was beneficial and focus more on that than what was somehow damaging, or if it was damaging, how you grew through the damage. So the resilient people, I was reading an article about this recently, rewrite their story. They might have the same story as somebody else, a very similar story, but the person who sees the story as evidence of their victimhood is the non-resilient person. The person that sees their story as evidence of their potential power and growth is the resilient one. And that applies, I think, to our parenting too. How we see, it's an important story that we tell ourselves, our origin story, how we were born and raised. It's an important story, and we can work with the story now in different ways to make it more empowering. Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, Allison. Robin.
Hi. Yeah, my relationship with my mom was quite complex, so I'm glad you mentioned that. Because she suffered from mental, illness issues and, from alcoholism, and she was not a bad person. So, you know, over the years, and I'm 65, but over the past 4 decades, I've done a lot of inner healing work, with therapy and meditation practice, that it's really helped me to gain so much wisdom and compassion. And it's also helped me to see her in a new light, that she really suffered and struggled from things. And it doesn't justify, how she handled some things, but she really was a multidimensional person, because there were parts of her that were very good and kind. And her gift to me was the value that she placed on education, that she always supported my education, and she would take my brother and I to the museums where we grew up. And, she was a teacher. She was kind to her students. And, she just struggled from, a lot of different things. And, my healing journey has been, just healing whatever I've needed to heal. And, I think, I have at this point, although I'm always in progress, I'm a work in progress. And I have a very different relationship with her now, thanks to the work that, has been made possible through my meditation practices and through other means. And this has been a great Mother's Day for me. It usually, it's not too much of a day for me, but I really love this Dharma talk, and it's just really helped me to remember her as a multidimensional person, and the good things and the wisdom and the compassion I've gained from, all the work I've done. Thanks.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, and thank you for sharing with us your history of working with it too. It's beautiful. Thank you. Laura.
Yeah, I just would I I would say that for me, like, well, I want to honor my mom by saying that I drank coffee on the front porch this morning, and I have a beautiful garden thanks mostly to the labor of my spouse, who's a gardener. But my mom was a gardener, and um, there were ways that she could not be present for me, but she was an artist and she was a gardener. And so, in some ways, like she kind of taught me green Tara practice. I think she was doing kind of green Tara practice in her own way to kind of save herself from the things that she experienced. And I think that she actually gave me this Dharma path, even if, so I did have a complex relationship with my mother, and I have a lot of, I mean, I'm bisexual and my community is queer, and there are a lot of people with abuse, like abusive relationships with their mothers. And so Tara practice, benefactor practice, has given me the capacity to be with, like, to make space for all of that. I could still connect, because the only way to like heal through it has been to like let that be there too. Like, I don't, it's not like one or the other.
Mm.
Um, and
Yeah.
also that the mother is not just one
Mm-hmm.
person, you know what I mean? Like, it helped me to connect with all of these mothers that I've had. Some of them were like my mom's friends, you know what I mean, or mentors and teachers, you know what I mean. So the panoply of mothers that helped me to love my mother as a human and let her be, who she was. Yeah. Uh, yeah. That's where I
Mm.
would, yeah.
Thank you, Laura. Yeah, I appreciate you mentioning the panoply of mothers too, because there isn't just one. There is the birth mother, and it's a powerful place to do some work, but there's the other mothers we've had that filled in, or that we even sought out and chose to fill in where our own mother couldn't be present in that way. Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. Well, we are moving towards, I'm going
I
to
see
move towards wrapping up.
Shep
Mhm.
is waving. I see Shep and Lynette waving. Do you
Oh,
want to?
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, Shep. Hey, Shep. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, there. Yeah, you unmuted, but then you muted again there.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
there we go.
great. Thanks for taking my hand, my physical hand, on the digital one. Uh, I just want to. My mother was a complicated and confused and beautiful soul, and I want to honor her ability to see the light side. She was expert at avoiding the dark, the shadow, but she also helped me learn how to look for something positive in amongst the shadow. So I want to honor that for her because I luckily have had good support in dealing with the shadow and the darkness in my life and life in general. And I'm really grateful that she showed me though that there is she'd call it the sunny side of the street. um, so I just want to honor her today for that reason.
Mm. Thank you, Shep. Thank you for bringing her in. What was her name?
Joanna,
Joanna. Okay.
Jimmy, Jimmy was
Yeah.
that's how people talk to her. She was Joanna
Oh,
Bright. She was Joanna Bright, but her name was she called herself Jimmy.
Jimmy. Okay. Thank you for bringing Jimmy in with us. Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes a person's transmission or bright side, which can also have a dark side, can be, you can find the transmission in something that has both sides to it. Yeah, it's beautiful. Hmm. Well, thank you all so much. And thank you for bringing yourselves and bringing your mothers with you this morning. And I feel them in the room, so to speak, and all of their brokenness and all of their wisdom and all of their beauty and um, all of their care, the care that they did extend, and just just wanting to end in gratitude for that, and in gratitude for the difficult parts as well, and the shadow parts that we have been invoked in our lives by our mother, and how we've had the opportunity then to work with it, to work through it, and to use that fuel in our life on our path. So good to see everyone. And we will conclude with our dedication, which is our way of opening the heart to paying forward whatever it is that we have gotten from our session together for the benefit of all beings, all sentient beings, as they say in the texts, who have been our mothers. Thank you. Jiangchu Samcho Rinpoche Ma Che Panam Che Chu Che Panyam Pa Me Payam Hong Ne Kong Du Kawa. May the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably until all are fully illumined and awakened. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And have a wonderful rest of your weekend and Sunday.